This is Shylo Bijou, and you are listening to Grit and Grace. Hey everyone, thank you so much for hopping on another episode of Grit and Grace. I am Shylo Bijou, and we are about to get started with a superstar in the fitness industry, Lauren. All righty, Lauren Valentino, thank you so much for hopping on this incredible. Yeah, I mean, so I've got to know you over the years. You are just one of those people where I looked at you and I'm like, I need to know this woman.
I was funny. I did the same thing to you. I was like, oh, who is she? We should be friends.
I was sitting backstage and I'm like, I was getting ready to go speak and you were back there and I'm like, who is this? And I'm like, this lady is a rock star. But you just have that vibe. You have the energy. And I think everything in what we do, what I do, what you do is energy. I mean, you feel people's energy, you read people's energy. You are a nutrition and fitness coach. You've done all the things. You IFBB Pro. We can just look at you and we know this. But I was laughing when I messaged you because when I wanted to do the show, I'm like, I'm going to talk to her about body image and things because I've gone through so much. And I mentioned being botched because I've been botched multiple times.
I mean, you don't look like you've been botched.
No, okay. There's so many women who, being in the fitness industry, everybody they're perfect and they do this. It's like, no, we all go through we get enhancements or we try to do things and sometimes we modify because things don't work out or we've been injured and there's things can happen. Plastic surgery isn't just about, let's go change our bodies. Because we can't. There's so many people. And I tell this to a lot of men. I'm like, you'd be surprised at how many women have gone through things and you don't know about it because maybe genetics or whatever. But I wanted to talk to you. Another meeting I had with you is you were in the airport. And I remember going, oh my God, you have the best butt. And I'm like, I love your butt.
It's so funny. So I have 4 degrees and then one of them, I have like 30 subsets of that degree. And I joke with people and I tell them, I always want to be known for my brains, but my butt always wins. Everyone knows me for my ass, not my brains. So I'll take what I can get. But yes, that's funny. I get.
You have a great butt and I love it. And I think it's awesome. So we are going to talk about some stuff today because I just wanted to have a fun conversation. But before we go into bodies, all the things, let's talk about Lauren. What got you in this industry? There's a lot of people in the fitness industry. There's always something that kind of triggers it where we're like, and this is why I went down this road. I mean, obviously, were you always in fitness? What was it?
Yeah, so funny enough, I of course had no clue what you were asking me today, but I am revamping my website and I called my dad. So my dad's in his 80s and he's an athlete and he's a physician as well. He still works, 4 days a week. He's a phenom. Like if you meet him, you would be like, there's no way that you're anywhere out of your 50s. And I asked him, I said, hey dad, the pictures that you had of me that you cut a broomstick in half to make me a bench press bar when I was 5, do you still have those? And he's like, I totally do. I was like, please send them to me. So this is funny because this is like me at 5 years old, wanting to work out like my dad. And I made him cut me a broomstick in half so I could have a bench press bar. So I would definitely say, fitness is in my blood. My dad was one of the pioneers in judging the Mr. and Miss Universe contest back like when it was Steve Reeves and Bill Pearl and all of the old greats of the greats. But holistic health was absolutely something I was born into. And it was a lifestyle. It was, they always say it's your kids do what you do, not what you say. Yeah. And man, that is true. So for me, I became passionate about it just early on, just because I watched my dad do it. Definitely fell out of that in high school and whatnot, went through all the things that girls go through. And then I graduated high school at 16 years old. And I was so out of shape, even though I cheered and I did things in high school. And it didn't really become my thing until I I got out of college pretty quickly and started working. And I'm just competitive by nature. I am a total type A. I have been accused of being aggressive by nature. Like I like to win. I like to win. I like to compete. And I was like, okay, like I'm already, I'm doing all the things. I have a wellness studio. I'm cranking. I'm making a lot of money, but I need something that like, I need an outlet for aggression. Just being totally transparent. And I was like, what can I do with this? So I joined a gym, and I mean, it was kind of like my childhood came back to me, and I've always been extremely strong, and I just loved it. And not from really the sense of how I looked. That was not really a piece of it for me. For me, it was achieving. And so I loved that I could go in and test myself. And it was always, it's me against me. I am probably the number one person that challenges me every day. I don't look outside for that. So I loved that fitness provided that for me. It provided a space and a place that I could challenge myself. But I also noticed that my mind always worked better when I would go do something athletic in my day. So everything centered around that for me. Eating well always centered around whether or not I was physically active. Because if you're doing that and you're moving your body, you're feeling good, you're training, you don't want to go eat naughty things. Like you just don't crave that. You crave healthy things. You crave healthy routines. And so that for me was like the piece that kind of held everything else together. So that's how I got into it. And then really quickly after that, I was like, okay, like I have to find something to fuel the competitive side of me. And I found figure competitions, and they were very early then. Like I competed the first time in 2003. So, I mean, they were just brand new. So, there weren't coaches. Of course, there was not Instagram. There was nowhere to get resource of information. You found the oldest, biggest dude in your gym, and you went and just like irritated him for information. You're like, hey, so about that grilled chicken, like, so, you didn't know what to do. People didn't really know dieting per se, like for that industry yet. So it was, for me in the beginning, a lot of it was trial and error. And then I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to go get a nutrition degree because why not? And so that kind of expanded that for me. But I was always very successful in figure competitions, because if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it well. So, but, I had the crash and burn of that too. I fast forward a few years, I was chasing a pro card and had placed, top 5 in nationals 6 times in a row. So I competed all year long. I got to experience tanking my hormones and digging myself out of that hole, and it was ugly. So I think coaches are very, very valuable now. Some of them not so much, but the ones that are credible are just, especially with women and hormones and just managing hormonal balance, because eating less and doing more for a long period of time is very detrimental for your hormone health and your total body health and wellness. So I think I way expanded on your question, but that's how I got into it.
It's good, because we need to go into it. There's a lot of things I noticed. Obviously I'm a woman, so I have always shied away from a fitness competition because I've seen what the wrong way to train has done to women, and you will bounce back in a very bad way. And then also when you said the biggest guy at the gym, they're not eating the right way. Okay. So back then, not all men, I'm not saying every man, but the guys that when you're talking about way back when, they call them keto Guidos now or something. It's a joke, but these guys are, but these men they're eating less and less, and they're eating no carbs. And it's like, no. You have to have carbs. I think people get so scared. It's like we are trained in all the wrong ways to eat. And I've had to fail many times to finally get my balance. And it's been this last couple of years where my health is the best it's been, because I got my hormones balanced. I'm eating the right ways. But there is so much misinformation out there. And I watch women struggle so badly. And that's why I really love what you're preaching, because things.
that exact reason was the reason that I developed my current company, Wholly Fueled, because I got to where I was just slammed with one-on-one clients and had a waiting list that I would never be able to get to.
Sure.
And, I'm passionate about it. I mean, I've been there. When I crashed my system, I remember absolute desperation sitting at my doctor's office going, I'm not okay. And I am so stoic and the last person that will ask anyone for help. I don't care if you're an MD. I don't care if you're the person to give me help. It will come out of my mouth like I'm spitting nails. So I remember sitting there going, hey, I'm not okay. I'm actually not okay in my brain. I'm not okay. And I remember he slid me a paper and he's like, here, answer these questions. I'll be right back. It's 3 questions. I answered them. He comes back and he's asked me nothing. He comes back in and he goes, I think you're bipolar and I want to prescribe you this medication, this medication. I was like, really? That's all you've got for me? You have no questions for me about my lifestyle, what I'm eating, what the last year has been? Am I under stress? Am I not? You want to just prescribe me? And 3-question questionnaire. I was like, right. Yeah, you can take your medication and I'm leaving. And so for me, one of the number one things is fats. Fats are precursors to all of our natural made hormones in our bodies and all of our brain chemicals. And I couldn't even tell you on that plan from going from, almost winning to almost winning to almost winning and staying in that place for so long, what I had done to not just my body, but my brain. And digging myself out, being me as the person having to get myself back in balance, it was hard. So I'm super sympathetic for women that go through that and that do get misinformation. If I had $1 for every woman that comes to me who's bought, funny, I saw this woman on stage at a ClickFunnels event talking about her multi-million-dollar business and the amount of women that she has ruined their hormonal health is absurd. Women can't live on 900 calories a day. No. So my company was developed to educate women, to give them nutrition, to let them focus on real, whole, and healthy foods, and to do that in a way that they're not spending all day in the kitchen. So I'm passionate about it, really passionate about it. And, like you said, there's tons of information out there. And the women that come to me, they're not lazy. They're high-level women who've done their research. They understand, what macros are. They understand what calories are. They understand everything. They don't understand how to put it together for their own bodies. And they also don't understand that our thyroid leads everything. So I always have women come to me and go, oh, this one diet I did, I look the best ever. I want to get back there. And what they don't realize is that being in a caloric deficit for too long, our thyroids downregulate. They start to go, wait a second, SOS guys, we need to bring this down because we're not getting the nutrients that we need. So when they go back to, just eating something normal, having a glass of wine or eating a granola bar or something, they're like, I gained 3 pounds. What, this doesn't even add up. And then that starts to perpetuate this cycle of under eating, overtraining, and they never dig their way out of it unless they have someone grab them by the hand and go, okay, so food actually helps you lose weight. But getting that mindset to shift, like you said, having that body image, I don't know, not necessarily dysmorphia, but just misunderstanding of how things work and how things can move you forward. It's unbelievable when you show a woman that, and if they'll trust you just for a minute, you can get pretty good results fast. And they're like, wow, I can't even believe this. And, not only do they feel good, have high energy, their brains function, and they, look amazing. But the funny thing is I always joke with my tribe and say, hey, that diet of 900 calories, you might look amazing for a minute, but you're going to be such an a-hole. No one's going to want to be around you. Your brain's not going to work and your girl's not going to work for sex either. So you might look hot, but you can't do anything with that because you're going to lose all your friends and your husband won't like you anymore. So it's not sustainable, ladies. Not sustainable.
It's not. And I've been through all of it. It's so funny. I'm I've done the crash diets. I've done all the things. I've gained, I've lost. And so this last little thing, when I actually met you, I was going through extreme stress. So I came into that world and I was dealing with legal stuff. I was under extreme stress. I was trying to maintain, like, I'm in a wellness company and I'm failing at wellness, like drinking too much. I was just like, I can't handle this. And so I hit the rock bottom and my body was done with how I was dealing with it, because it was like, oh my God. So I had gained and lost in 6-7 months. I probably gained about 30 to 40 pounds. I had got put on prednisone and, shot up a little bit there too. So of course, I mean, how to add to the mix, and then back down. And I was like, my body is so pissed off right now. So pissed off. And so the gut brain health connection is huge. And you did kind of mention it, like it's tied. Like if women, let's talk about this, like let's educate today. So women don't understand sometimes, like I'm always tired and I'm always, and then they're like, but I work out and I'm doing all the things. And then I say, tell me, and I'm not a fitness expert like you. I don't have that, but I do know from my issues, I work out less, I eat more, and it's easier than it's ever been. And I'm the healthiest, leanest. I feel good. I don't have to think about it. And I eat cake. I eat all food. Okay. Yes. So you can actually eat what you want. I mean, not all day, every day. You don't want to just sit and go balls to walls, but the gut brain connection is huge. And when you said he diagnosed you with bipolar, the other thing that people get, the hormone connection is wild, because for women, we get labeled crazy, or you talked about the sex drive going away. I've had all those things. And it's because my adrenals were fatigued. Yep. I was overloading myself, drinking tons of caffeine, trying to and taking supplements that were absolutely horrific for my body. I wore myself down in a way where my body was like, stop.
Enough. Yeah.
You do not stop this. We are going to be seeing severe, like it was going to be getting on major medication forever if I wasn't starting to take care of it. So let's talk to the women today about that. I think it's important, like simple changes. Mine, I'm going to say this, I'm going to let you tell me what you think too. One of the biggest changes for me, it's so simple that in 3 to 5 days, I can see a result, is fasted cardio in the morning. I do not fast. I'm not a faster, but like getting up and doing light. And I'm not talking about lifting weights. That's not correct. I know that's not correct. I get up and I take a walk. I don't run, I walk. And that shows big momentum or metabolism boost for me right away. So let's talk about little tiny things women can do to get out of this awful cycle today, because I see too many women making big mistakes that are long-term.
Yeah. So some of the ones that I deal with, and that is the majority of what I deal with my high level one-on-one clients now, is all hormones. And probably the number one thing that I see is thyroids as number one. The second, you hit on it, is adrenal fatigue. So, and it's cool that you're talking about getting up. Do you walk outside? You made it sound like you do.
I used to. Right now I'm downtown, so I don't as much. But yes, I love walking outside when I can.
Okay. Yeah. So moving your body first thing in the morning like that is so magical for really revving up your metabolism, getting your body ready for the day. And not only that, but you're also, I don't know if you've noticed, just being more productive in your day. The amount of neurotransmitters in your brain that respond to activity like that first thing in the morning is magical. Talking about like just great things that you can do first thing in the morning. And I coach my clients to this because I find that the majority of the women that I work with are chronically dehydrated. And so starting out your day with like 20 to 30 ounces of water. I mean, lemon water is ideal just to alkalinize your body, get your stomach ready to digest food. But that means like before you put pills in your mouth or vitamins or any kind of coffee, anything, that does a lot of things. It gets our digestion ready. It also, women struggle a lot of times with going to the bathroom as they should, like having proper bowel movements, because that is our smooth muscle tissue. So if we hit the ground running in the morning and our adrenal glands are like, go, when we shunt adrenaline, our body goes, okay, we're going to run from that bear or pick the car up off our kid. So it definitely does not prioritize. All of our blood gets shunt to our skeletal muscles and away from our midsections. And we experience improper digestion from the start of the day, and also chronic constipation. So I help women with that. I'm like, hey, just get up 20 minutes earlier. and breathe. Like, seriously breathe, drink your water, have a minute to yourself, do your mindset practice, do your prayer, do your meditation, have a minute before you start your day. So I think that is very vital. I love the water piece for me, for my clients. That's one that I preach a lot of, is just making sure that you're getting your water in. I think that if you do nothing else, making sure that you're getting enough water is huge, because we don't do that. And not just water, but high quality water, especially for us women. We don't need to be drinking out of plastics. Really big on that one, just because plastics unfortunately bind to a lot of our female receptors. So I have in my house, and recommend, unless you're going to do like a house system, you have thousands of dollars to do that, a Berkey water filter is phenomenal. You can actually go online and find, like at the EWG, if you type in water, tap water, they have a tap water database. You can put your zip code in there, and it'll tell you the contaminants that they're finding in your local water. And it is mind blowing. So, I mean, you're getting like birth control and antibiotics and all the things that people flush down the toilet or, end up in our water system. So I think water is huge. Other tips and tricks. I mean, I am a firm believer in just being prepared, man. Like having real food, the most that you can eat real food. Our bodies know how to read that information. It's like putting, it's like, okay, I don't have gasoline for my car, so I'm just going to put a little dish soap in there because it's also fluid. Just because something is packaged and in your food aisle does not, who deemed that food? Like if you can't read the things on it and you don't know half of the things in there, it's man-made processed garbage. Guess what? Your body doesn't know what to do with that. So it's having to work super hard to detox before it can even break down, process, and assimilate. We did a really cool study in school when I was going through nutrition, and I chose an Oreo, like to see, okay, how long does it take an Oreo to get through your body? And I'll spare you all of the really crazy details that we did to do that. But it's a little Bible, it's a little concerning. It takes 48 days for your body to get rid of every synthetic nastiness that's in an Oreo. What? That's just crazy. 48 days before it's totally gone. And, when you see things like that, our food is information. It either elevates or deteriorates our DNA. And you get to choose. We choose with every single bite and every single choice that we put our bodies through. You probably have seen that if you're in a place right now where you're like, hey, I'm able to live and eat and, not pay much attention to what I've got going on. I feel healthy. I feel good. That's probably one of the big shifts that you've made, right?
It is. I think it's important. And the other thing is I'm a busy person and I don't like to cook. And so I always tell people, I'm like, I'm pretty plain Jane about my food. You don't have to be. You can do a lot of, if you love cooking, you can make it fabulous. Like for me, I don't care. So but I make sure when I cook a lot. So I'm like, I have this for tomorrow and the next day. So you don't have to be crazy lady on Sunday, because not everybody agrees with that. You work with high level professionals. We know there's not a lot of time. So how I've made it work, I'm like, nah, I just cook more than one thing at a time. I make sure I have all this ready. And so I can grab it quick and I have things that I can eat quickly, but I don't eat processed foods. It's very rare. I stay away from processed like cheeses and things like that. So when I talk to people, that's one of my big things. So talk about dairy, because I've always had this issue. So let's talk about dairy, because now that we're talking about women and dairy, people are always like, I need to have all my cheese and I need to, I'm like, okay, but so talk about dairy and what it does and why we have to be really careful with it.
Sure. We absolutely have to be careful with dairy. So, okay, first of all, let's just back up. So I'm a biology major. So I'll take it back there. If I brought you a koala bear and I was like, Shylo, I want you to suck on this koala boob and get nutrition from it, you would be like, are you crazy? Like, where's the money I'm going to get? It's better be a lot. Like, what are you crazy? I mean, we are the only mammal on the planet that consumes breast milk from another species. So we can just start there. And I think you could possibly end the argument there, but we're the only ones that consume, and then take it a step further. We're the only ones that consume milk past infancy. What breast milk is designed to do is to give us our largest stint of growth ever in our human existence. So, I mean, I think we actually 400x our size in the first 2 years of being alive. Same thing with a cow. A cow goes from a couple 100-pound calf to being an over 2,000-pound adult on cow's milk and grass. So, I mean, that's like mind blowing. Cows also have 4 stomachs. I mean, they're properly set up to digest their milk. We are not. Then you go into like the industry. Okay, well, like, why do we choose cows? We chose cows because they're dumb and because they're easy to house. They're non-aggressive. I mean, they'll just like hang out. They're like sweet, right? They're like, they're not dumb, but they're non-aggressive. So, but you have to pump them full of hormones to get them to lactate. So we are loading them full. I mean, the last study that I read, which was like last week, is that even in our organic milk, you're exposing yourself to 63 hormones that disrupt your hormone. 63. So not only that, but because of their housing, they're loaded full of antibiotics because they milk them all day long. So if you've actually gone to a place like this, and of course I did because I wanted to see this, I took pictures for a blog that I did. Their udders are covered in pus because they are abused. They are milked all day long. And, the more milk that they get out of this animal, the more money they make. It's a cash cow, yes, if you will. So, I mean, and then they will let all of that slide. I mean, I watched this is change the way you look at it forever. I watched a huge piece of bloody pus fall into the thing of milk from this cow, and they just kept getting it. You know why? Because they pasteurized that. And so there's a certain amount of parts per billion that they will let go because it's pasteurized. You're drinking that. And then we wonder, okay, well, why does our body produce mucus? So if you go to your doctor and go, hey, I have a cold, I can't breathe, they'll be like, well, stay away from sugar, dairy, whatever, it's going to help you be able to breathe. Well, why is that? Because our bodies produce mucus to isolate what is deemed as foreign and not good for us. It produces, our immunoglobulins do that. I think it's IgI anyway, it doesn't matter. But our immune system goes, that's foreign and we don't like that. So let's attack it, isolate it so that it can't hurt the body until we can get rid of it. That's why we experience mucus. We experience it in our intestines when we do anything dairy, and also in our, if you gave me dairy, you will hear it in my voice in about 30 minutes. I can't talk. I sound nasally. And my kids have never had dairy milk ever. So I am a huge believer, especially, we're watching girls now start their periods at 8 and 9 years old. Really? So,
it's everywhere. And then they push it. So, when you say the dairy industry is an industry, it makes billions of dollars, probably trillions. It's probably trillions. It's just, when you look at it and you're like, oh, it's healthy. No, somebody paid for somebody to say it's healthy. That's not it. There's no reason to have it. And I always am hesitant to see what somebody says because I am totally on your page. Dairy for me, I'm like, I don't, to buy milk, it will rot in my fridge. We don't drink it. We don't drink milk. I'm not sitting at the table drinking milk. I don't do that. When I eliminated dairy from my life was incredibly changed. This was years and years ago.
Sure.
I always said, and people, okay, so this is my favorite, and we're going to talk about this. Sure. People come to me for diet advice and fitness advice. I can only give them my experience, and I try to give them what I can. But I'm like, you gotta eliminate. These are the two things I always laugh when I see this. I want to lose 20 pounds. I'm like, all right, first things first, get rid of dairy. Try to eliminate as much as you can. Cause I know there's people who have a really hard time, dairy and alcohol. And they're like, oh, I can't do that. And I'm like, well, do you want to lose weight or what do you want? What are your goals? Sure. And they're like, just tell me what to do without getting rid of all my cheese and my wine. And I'm like, well, you're going to have
clothes.
Yeah.
Clothes to fit your overweight self. I don't know what to tell you.
But isn't it the mindset. Let's talk about emotional stuff
Sure.
now. You deal with this all day long. And this is the biggest piece, in my opinion. Weight gain, loss, all the things that we deal with, it all is centered around emotions. I mean,
Sure.
people, a lot of times it comes from trauma. I mean, people will overeat for reasons. People, I mean, there's a lot of misunderstandings and stuff, but there's a lot of people that emotionally eat.
Mm-hmm.
And women really struggle here. So maybe let's talk to women today about that, because the emotional piece, every time I'm talking to someone about actually losing weight, it comes into some really serious things. You know, there's
Mm-hmm.
things going on there that start from childhood, you know? And so let's talk about the emotional piece. And, you know, alcohol for me was a big one because I used it to numb things, but I was using it for the calming and relaxing. Let's take the anxiety down. And I was using it as a tool. And then I was like, but I have to detox every Monday because I'm chasing it. So I was constantly chasing until my body finally said, you can't do that anymore either. It's not going to work. Cause I turned, you know, I'm 40. Like you can't mess around after certain ages. So let's just talk to women about the emotional piece. I know you have to coach people through things. And
yes, I do. And, you know, it definitely, funny enough, I had a couple of clients today, and I don't normally on Wednesdays. And we were having this exact conversation. I was having this exact conversation earlier. And hers was about exercise. And so when I do one-on-ones with people, I break it down to the ridiculous and I tell them, you've got to give me full control for 4 weeks. You're going to follow exactly what's on your plan. Because if I don't do that, I can't figure out, like, I want them to get back to living normal life as fast as possible. If I know exactly what they're doing with their meals, and I'll make it fit their day. I mean, I've had people that work, you know, nurses working second shift or, you know, whatever. I make it fit, because if it doesn't fit, it's not going to work. But then we start to plug in the exercise piece, and I'll even tell them like how fast they're going on the treadmill and what their incline is. Cause I can do that now after 14 years, you know, I know your height and I can tell you exactly where you need to be. So we had touched base earlier, and I was like, so did anything go in your mouth that wasn't on your plan? Why did you ask me that? I don't know, my crystal ball said you've been cheating this week. And she had lost, I mean, she has a big goal. She had lost like 4 pounds. There was no reason for me to ask that. I just knew she had. So she was like, well, I mean, I had some wine at a church event, and I mean, just a bite of pasta, but oh my gosh, did I pay for that? So she's talking about how bad her stomach hurt because we've already gotten past getting gluten out of her body. And then we kind of circled to the exercise piece, and I was like, okay, did you hit up your Orange Theory? You got these accomplished. And I didn't really have a lot on our plan. Like I try to start people, I learn my people really quick, and I may set the bar so low that they trip over it. So we can start that success pattern, and they can feel good about, you know, their efforts, and that they are getting into a rhythm and a routine of showing up for themselves. It's not about what I want them to do. It's about them regaining their belief in themselves. Because if you say you want, just like someone coming to you, I want to lose 20 pounds, what do I do? You name 2 things and they're like, I can't do that. Well, you have to decide, do you want to be exactly where you are, or do you want results? You can't have both. And so we started to look at, and I asked her, I was like, well, did you do your Orange Theory? She's like, I mean, one of them, she's like, I just don't like working out. And I was like, okay, let's break that apart. Fine. Awesome. Right. Why not? And she's like, I just hate it. She's like, it's hard. And I was like, you know what? It is hard. It sure is. And I was like, you know, but here's the thing. You have a 50-pound goal. We agreed from the beginning that you were never going to be in a place again where you would have to look at yourself in the mirror, your kids, me, anyone, and say that you had to lose 50 pounds. We passed that. Like, we're gone. You're never going to get to say that again. And the only way that you're going to move yourself forward is to do hard things. And you can do hard things. So you have to, and I was like, here's the thing. The more you do hard things, they become easier. And then they become things that you are empowered by. And then they become things that become part of your life and part of who you are and who you want to be. So you can't have your $1 million body on minimum wage habits. You have to decide, are we going to be in love with your habits, or are we going to get you to where you want to go? And she's like, oh, you're so right. I was like, well, the recipe of what you're doing is where you are right now. So we have to change the ingredients. And you know what? I'm going to sit with you and I'm going to hold your hand and I'm going to be like, girl, that's freaking hard. And especially at, 210 pounds and your size, it is hard because you have extra weight on your body. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's hard, but we've got to make some changes and start to do some different things. So it depends on the person. You asked about emotional eating and kind of, how that feels for people. What I like to do is I do feel like, unless there is just a major emotional root component, I feel like if you can give someone balanced nutrition, women need protein. I tell my girls so that they remember and they never skip their protein. Protein makes us pretty. Every single cell in our body is made of protein. Your muscle tone, the firmness. I've never had a woman hire me and say, look, I just want to be skinny fat. Can you just make me smaller? I want to keep my fat, just make me skinny looking and fat. No, that's not what they say. They come to me and they go, I want your butt and I want your arms and your shoulders. How do I get my tone? I want to be firm. I want to be toned. And, I want to be leaner. That's what I hear. I want energy. I want to be lean. I want to have shape because, again, I don't think any woman has ever hired me saying, I just want to look like a stick. No, that's not what we want. No way. Like we're all like staring at Beyonce's butt going, yes, please. I'll take one of those little bitty waist. And, we have our thoughts, right? So if you can take a woman and you can get their nutrients balanced. So I tell my girls, protein makes us pretty. If you, ask me about my hair, I have so many people that are like, who does your extensions? Protein does my extensions. So hair, skin, nails, firmness, tone, all of that comes from what we put in our mouths. And then carbs, you touched on it earlier. We need energy. And it's about where you put those. It's about what you choose them to be. Putting them earlier in your day, you're going to burn through them. And then by the time you get to the evening, you're not going to have all these excess carbs floating around in your body to just turn into body fat when you go to bed. Fats, our brains need fats. I have a good friend who is a world-renowned psychotherapist. And she always giggles. And I asked her one time, I was like, Judith, when did your popularity shift? She goes, oh, let me tell you. She goes, in the 80s, when the trend was the low fat diet, she goes, I'd watch these women come in looking like brick shit houses and crazier than hell. She's like, they were nuts. They looked amazing. They were freaking nuts. And she said, I started to notice after about a month or two, she's like, where are all these crazy women come from? Yeah. She said, I started to notice that it was literally directly connected to the trend of the low fat diet. And our bodies can only sustain that for so long. And it starts to deteriorate our hormones and our brain health. I mean, serotonin and dopamine need fats to be able to secrete those chemicals. So you talk about like antidepressants. Most of antidepressants are some form of SSRI, serotonin reuptake inhibitors. Well, if you're not giving your body the ingredients that it needs to be able to make those brain chemicals, you can try all day long to be normal, but you don't have the ingredients for your body to do what it needs. So if you can position someone's nutrition to where it's balanced, and make sure, this is probably one that you may have noticed too. I know I have in my life, is that if I'm under eating, I will I'll be like textbook perfect, come sliding into the end of the day where everything slows down, especially for us, busy type A people. And I will just keep circling to my pantry. I'm like a nocturnal nightmare as far as what else can I eat and what else can I eat? Mm-hmm. Because if you're not getting what you need during the day, you're going to easily consume, 2,000 calories at night. And then the cycle continues to perpetuate itself. Mm-hmm. So, some of those things. And then yes, emotional eating. I have a good handful of clients that have lost over 100 pounds, and every single one of them have, but every single one of them have childhood physical and sexual abuse history, for sure.
It's very common.
It's super sad. And, for them, the thing that they found peace in was the thing that they knew that would love them back without hurting them. And it was food. So I definitely, with those cases, I have them work with a therapist in conjunction with me as well. But, it's sad that that is a connection, and it is a connection because of what we know nutrition does in our bodies. I mean, carbohydrates and fats, they release serotonin and dopamine. They make us feel good.
Mm-hmm.
And when we start to, it's kind of like watching a kid, and I think you can really relate this to a kid. I have one kid that's like, if you give him sugar, it's on you. Like, you knew already that he's about to turn crazy. And you can't blame him. Like, I've warned everyone in my family. I'm like, if you give him anything with dye or like straight up sugar, he is not responsible. My other kid is not like that. So it's cool to see, same family, same genetics, but completely different. But you see, I mean, it is like, whew, and then the crash. And then of course, an hour later, he's wanting more sugar, because when our insulin level tanks like that, our brains go, oh, that felt good. Let's do it again.
Yep.
So, I mean, it's breaking the cycle, and having a solid, plan in place to break the cycle is kind of the only way to dig yourself out.
It is. It's so important. We can't
mention drinking at night.
Yeah.
That's a tricky one with women too, because we think that, okay, this is like calming and this is really, really good. And you probably look back now that you're on the other side of it, you probably look back and go, wow, my sleep was crappy. Like, the first half of the next day of mine was crappy. And, alcohol gets prioritized in front of food. So I tell my clients that if they are going to drink, I'm like, hey, when the bar opens, the kitchen closes, because alcohol is prioritized in our bloodstream as a carbohydrate and as a sugar. So that is a way to pack on weight super fast, is if you're, eating and drinking in the evening. But it's a hard cycle to break, because when you're in it, it feels good. It feels like, okay, this is how I'm going to unwind, when really that's probably not your experience, right? You probably had crappy sleep and, had other things going on that you maybe weren't aware of when you were in it.
Mm-hmm. And the other thing that's really crazy right now is we went through a pandemic, we have COVID, and the high risk people, unfortunately, are obesity. Obesity is one of the number one. And we're also becoming, I believe, the number one country of obesity now. I mean, we eat like shit here. I'm just going to say it, shit. Yes. And we're all processed. We're told all the wrong things. And sadly, people in lower income, communities, or the lower incomes, they're eating worse. And so it's affecting them worse. And so as a fitness professional and a nutrition and all the things, what has been your experience as we wrap this up? What can you help people with? Like, people need to understand. I love the water tip. I love moving your body. That's always my tip too. Stay away from as much processed as you can. Carbohydrates are your friends, but pick your carbs. Pick your carbs. Obviously, natural whole foods, fruits, vegetables. Quit staying away from fruits. There's nothing wrong with fruit, but we have to watch that too. I mean, you don't want to eat fruit all day, but fruit's okay. Fruit's our friend. What would be the last thing you could say going through this and getting your immunity up? What have you been telling your clients?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the number one things that people need to pay attention to right now, and it's kind of concerning that we're seeing as many cases as we are in the middle of the summer, is vitamin D. Get yourself outside. Get yourself outside and move your body. Would be probably, if you're asking me, to like prioritize the tips. And although that doesn't sound super sexy, it's like, oh, come on, Lauren, give me something, like some sort of pill I can go buy or something I can take and do. Moving your body is going to be number one, and getting vitamin D. So upping our vitamin D levels. Vitamin D, we call it a vitamin. It's a primary hormone in our body. And if we are low in vitamin D, every other hormone has lower function, and especially our immunity. So, that's why normally we don't see, there's not sickness really in the summertime. Very, very rare to see sickness in the summertime. We see it in the winter when our vitamin D levels drop and drop and drop. So get yourself outside, move, get some sunlight. Even just what we're starting to see a lot of, and it's kind of scary, and I'm seeing links to infertility issues with women with it, is that we are constantly, our eyes, our pituitary glands are only getting artificial light. And that changes the way our circadian rhythm functions. That's why I asked you, are you doing an outside walk in the morning? Because the way that natural light from the sunshine stimulates our brain is completely different. And they've done brain scans that are unbelievable on just how much of our brain turns on when we are consuming real natural light. But get yourself outside, get vitamin D. And when it starts to get to where you're not outside, I mean, check in on your vitamin D levels, take vitamin D is going to be one of the best things for your immune system. And then of course, you know, you hit on it. I mean, number one factor here is obesity, and the numbers are baffling. I mean, I do a live training each week with a blog that I publish, and I started my blog 2 years ago. And I looked at, you know, our national numbers 2 years ago because I did, you know, a weight loss blog, and I did them again just last 2 weeks ago. It is so concerning how many, I mean, the majority of Americans are not only overweight, but obese. Like that is sad. It's so sad. It's unbelievable. But, you know, I heard a physician recently talk about how sitting desk jobs are the new form of smoking. I have a very good friend who's a renowned heart surgeon here. And he just talks about, he's like, you know, he's been working a long time. He's like 40 years in, and they won't let him leave because he's so good. So he kind of overshadows surgeries. And he's like, 40-year-old hearts are totally different than they were 40 years ago. He goes, and I'm not just talking about, you know, obviously, you know, we operate on all kinds of people. He's like, nowhere close to the same. And he said, it's our diets, and it's the fact that we just are okay to just not move. And so if you can just get outside and move. And if you're going to make that your mission, set your goal small, 30 minutes a day, but be consistent to that 30 minutes a day. I'm doing a challenge inside of one of the groups that I run right now. And it's because I actually got sidelined this year. So I had a surgery, actually a breast surgery, and then I was almost better, and I got on a one wheel. Have you seen those things?
Yeah.
So super fun. But my girlfriend that was showing me hers, she forgot. She gave me every information that I needed to know to go and like do tricks on it and be awesome. She forgot to tell me how to stop. So I was like way down the road from her having a blast. And I was like, I can't stop this thing and I'm going to hit something. So I had to jump off of it. When I jumped off of it, I broke my arm and then 3 wrist bones, and I ripped some of the cadaver tissue that they had to use in the surgery. So I had to redo the surgery. So I was sidelined for 4 months, which for me was the hardest thing ever. So I just got back into being able to move like normal about a month, 6 weeks ago. And so I went to run 3 miles, which for me, I'm not a runner at all, but I was like, okay, that for me is like a baseline. I mean, everyone should be able to run 3 miles. And I kind of set my worst case scenario time in my head before I went out there. And I was like, okay, I will not go over an 11-minute mile. Like that's like the slowest I've ever run. Girl, if you had given me $1 million to run it 1 second faster, there was no way I could have done it. Could not. And I was like, oh, this is terrible. So I brought that challenge into our group. So what we're doing is every day I'm making the women in there do 3 miles. I don't care if they're walking, jogging, running, and they have to post their time. So, you know, that takes you anywhere between, we have high level athletes in there, and then we have, you know, just women that are like, I'm here to just get some inspiration and do the thing. So we have people posting anywhere from like 25 minutes to 55 minutes. It doesn't matter, but every single one of them, they're only on day 3, and they're like, this is the best thing that I've done all year, just because it's a daily goal that they have to reach. So it doesn't matter if it's 15 minutes. If that's all you feel like you can get, just be consistent with it. That would be my last tip. Just move.
I love
Even
it.
if it's 15 minutes. Yeah.
I love it. And I want everyone to know where they can find you, because number one, we had this has been an incredible show. You taught me. You've also taught me some tricks that I'm going to start utilizing. You know, we always need, the more information, the better. Like the more I can get to make life for my kids, for me better, is always good. But how can someone find you if they want to work with you, if they want to connect with you, share? And we're going to also post your links too. So
awesome. So my blog is laurenvalentino.com. I mentioned earlier my one-on-ones, like I have a very long list for one-on-ones, but that is why Wholly Fueled was developed. So that is the company that I run and I do all of the nutrition for. I actually have a business partner who is also a fitness expert, but she is a culinary genius. So we do, I do all the science of the meal plans, and then she makes them super fast and delicious. So we do like a weekly menu in there. So that's whollyfueled.com, WHOLLY, like whole food. I'll send you links and such, but thank you. I appreciate that.
No. We want to. That's why I have you on here, because I want to showcase you to everybody. I mean, it's been incredible watching this. I've been paying attention to you for a couple of years now and just watching what you do and your attitude, your energy. But I'm so for helping women the most, because it's like the women, it's different. You cannot take man's nutrition and science and apply it to the women because of the hormones. And I've had to learn that the hard way. And I really, really push that on people. So when I find trainers who are specific in that, and they have the background to back it up, like they know what they're doing. It's important that people know that, and that more women can get connection, because we just talked about it. Obesity is rampant, like everywhere.
Well, and I think it's important, even for you and people asking you advice, you have to have lived on all sides. And I think that's what makes, I don't want to say that what makes me a good coach, but it does. If you have walked that path, you get it. When I was pregnant with my second kid, I was put on bed rest for 6 months just for him to like make it into the world. And I remember giving birth to him, and I was like, oh my goodness, I have 65 pounds that is still here. So, I've been on both sides of it, and I've also crashed my system. I know what it feels like to have your hormones completely trashed and rebuild that. I didn't want to be on thyroid meds, even though I should have been. So rebuilding that with nutrition and being able to understand how women feel, to understand how it feels to not love the body you live in, to understand how it feels to be in a cycle that you don't feel like you can get out of. It's really hard. So I think that for you as well, that's why people ask you your expertise. I mean, you are a force, you are an energetic light, and, they see that you've been there. And also, the life that you're living now is super beautiful and very sexy and very attractive, very magnetic. So I understand why you get asked that a lot.
It's been fun, and it's been fun to be connected to you and continue to grow our relationship, because we haven't been able to see each other in how long because of all this, but we will as soon as we can. And it's going to be great. And I appreciate you. We're going to post your links. We're grateful for Lauren Valentino. If you did not know how to find her, we're going to post those links for you. Find her if you need her. She's incredible. This has been another insanely amazing episode of Grit and Grace with Shylo Bijou, and we will catch you all on the next one. Thank you so much for helping.
Thanks for having me.
Now, glutathione is a big word, but it's the body's own master antioxidant. So it's a scavenger for free radicals, for bacteria, and what's relevant now, viruses. This is new to the marketplace. There's no other product on the market that has the ingredient NACET.
And basically NACET increases the production of that glutathione that is in our body already to strengthen and enhance our immune system and keep it strong. Elevated sense of well-being. Supports muscle strength and endurance, cognitive function, powerful liver support, energy, helps blood sugar regulation, superior bioavailability of key ingredients.
One of your best defenses against COVID is a strong immune system. Taking GSH Plus as a daily supplement does all that. And now we have the product out on the marketplace.